this GM story is big for a number of reasons. And let me just start with this. I got an email from listener Miles. Hey, Sam. I'm a 10th grader who is a big fan of the show. Smart kid.
Very smart kid.
I was curious about your assessment of trade policy in light of the 15,000 jobs lost from GM. I know you've been critical about Trump's trade war and international tariffs. I know also that the progressive movement and prominent social democrats had harsh criticism and opposition towards TPP, NAFTA, and PNTR, among other free trade agreements. I'm not even familiar necessarily with PNTR, I don't think, off the top of my head.
Permanent normalized
trade relations. Is that the
trade
one,
relations.
the European one?
I would assume so.
I don't think
But no, PNTR was with China years ago. I don't know what the most recent one is.
To be honest, I'm not positive 100% if you oppose these deals and support renegotiating them, but I know this idea was a key tenet of the Sanders campaign and many leftist political organizations. Has your position changed on protectionism because of the effects under Trump, or is there something specific about Trump's protectionism that puts it at odds with, say, Bernie Sanders? Yes. Well, my position has not changed broadly on protectionism. I think that may be a little bit narrow. The problem is we have a free full flow of capital. We do not have a free flow of labor. And broadly speaking, that is problematic. And we do not require, in the context of these deals, the safeguards for labor, environment, consumer, in that is bilateral or is reciprocal, and that's problematic for both ends on that deal. Today's guest is going to speak to this dynamic in particular, and then of course I have problems with, in particular, the resolution dispute system that is really contrary to the sovereignty of the countries and completely anti-democratic. But we will talk more about that with today's guest. And as far as GM, it's unclear to me that the issue is a function of Trump's tariffs. And incidentally, thank you for the email.
Wow, this kid's in 10th grade?
Yeah.
Very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
Clever little devil.
Yes.
Or not.
I was going to say, I hope Mila gets there in 10th grade.
Boom.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
I don't know that you could attribute what's happening with GM to the tariffs on Chinese steel. Certainly when Ford, it was announced, or I should say reported, that Ford was preparing to lay off 12% of its workforce. I think it was like something like 24,000 people. The implication was that it was a function of the steel tariffs. I haven't seen that type of reporting with GM. What we have seen is that the tax breaks, the tax gifts, the giveaways to GM that the Republicans promised us was going to end up in workers' pockets did not end up in workers' pockets. What we also did see is 4 years of stock buybacks, which, recall, was an illegal practice until Ronald Reagan decided that it no longer was. And what these stock buybacks do, and I've said this on this program ad nauseum, is it simply pays off the biggest shareholders, which, contrary to what some on the right will tell you, is not pension holders. And it is the CEOs, the C-suite members, the board of directors, and some very wealthy individuals. 84% of the stocks in this country are owned by the top 20% of the people. And So this is a broader story. I don't know if it's directly attributable to the steel tariffs, but another part of the story, in addition to the stock buybacks and the wealthy lining their pockets, is, of course, that promises made, promises not quite kept. Here is Donald Trump. This is from 2017? 2016? 2016 in Warren, Michigan, ladies and gentlemen. Warren, Michigan. Here is Donald Trump.
He says about Hillary is so bad. He said she has terrible instincts. But we have good instincts. And I've been saying your car industry is being sucked away from Michigan. It's happening. If I'm elected, you won't lose one plant. You'll have plants coming into this country. You're going to have jobs again. You won't lose one plant. I promise you that.
Yes. Well, if you lived in Warren, Michigan, and you worked at the GM's plant, a transmission plant in Warren, Michigan, I've got some bad news for you. He lied. Now, of course, it was a silly promise for him to make in the first place, but Warren, Michigan lost its plant. It was one of the at least 6, maybe I think 9 plants that were shut down by GM. Here is Donald Trump in Youngstown, Ohio in 2017.
I was looking at some of those big, once incredible job-producing factories, and my wife, Melania, said, "What happened?" I said, "Those jobs have left Ohio. They're all coming back. They're all coming back. Coming back. Don't move. Don't sell your house. Don't sell your house." Remember, I got a lot of credit. This is hard to believe, but the press gave me a lot of credit because a number of years ago I said, "This is the time to buy a house," during one of my speeches. I said, "Go out and buy." And they did this big story, got all over, that Trump predicted. Let me tell you folks in Ohio and in this area, don't sell your house. Don't sell your house. Do not sell it. We're going to get those values up. We're going to get those jobs coming back, and we're going to fill up those factories or rip them down and build brand new ones. That's what's going to happen.
Lordstown,
Also-
Ohio lost one of its plants in this closing. So,
Get a new credit card, too.
but look, the bigger story, aside from the fact that Donald Trump's a pathological liar, and if you believed him, then there was not enough caveat emptors out there, is GM over the past 4 years had $14 billion. $14 billion worth of stock buybacks. Now, their closings say, in their closing announcement, they say they're going to save $6 billion annually by firing 15,000 people. $14 billion, half of which has come in the last 2 years. There was a story. I saw this at, I don't know, it's like one of those stock places, Wolf Street. And the guy wrote, after wasting $14 billion on share buybacks, GM prepares for Carmageddon. Closes 8 plants. But here's the thing, is that this concept that they were incompetent, right? That they wasted this money is what is the problem here. They didn't waste the money. The people who made these decisions made off like bandits. They are extremely wealthy now because of these decisions. They would look at this and say, waste? What are you talking about? We made millions. Millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions probably of dollars. We bought back our stock. We raised the value of our stock. We are compensated in stock because capital gains taxes are cheaper on stock. And then we sold the stock. We paid less in taxes than we would have if we actually went out and worked for that money. If we had gotten paid in wages. And we're super wealthy. And we didn't have to make better cars. We didn't have to help any communities. We didn't have to provide for our employees. We made out like bandits. This was not wasted. We did exactly what we wanted to do. Mission accomplished. And of course, then we had to lay off 15,000 people. What are you going to do?
Competition would start kicking in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There it is.
If I may, there are some people who want to equate Trump's sort of phony opposition to globalization with Bernie's real opposition to the problems caused by globalization and neoliberalism. And like some of Bernie's rhetoric has sounded somewhat economically nationalist. But I think they're coming at the problem from two very, very different directions. And especially lately, I've seen some good stuff coming from the Bernie camp on how to deal with these problems in a way that is actually constructive, which involves supporting an internationalist workers' movement, not closing the borders.
Well, the bottom line is, and when we talk to our guest today, is that these trade deals, among other things, don't necessarily favor one country over another. It favors one class of individuals over the other.
Exactly.
And that in that respect, it's there's a certain reciprocity. We're going to get Mexican millionaires and billionaires richer, and we're going to get American millionaires and billionaires richer. So it's truly bilateral.
It's a win-win.
You win-win. But we will talk to her momentarily. In the